Okay, we'll get this almost said party started. We'll get this meeting started. Good evening and welcome to the SJVA PCD Environmental Justice Advisory Group meeting. We will do our best to facilitate a smooth meeting with public participation via Zoom and webcast. Before we begin, here are some important guidelines and general instructions for the meeting. Please silence your other communication devices, such as your cell phone. During the meeting, all public participants will be placed on mute by the host. Public members will not be able to mute or unmute manually. Audio from members of the public will be unmuted once they are recognized to make a public comment. I will call the meeting to order and ask the clerk for a roll call, please.
Ms. Martinez? Here. Mr. Graywall?
Here.
Mr. Freitas?
Here.
Ms. Gutile?
Here.
Ms. Vielma? Mr. Helm? Mr. Williams?
Here.
Ms. Rodriguez?
Here.
Ms. Matthews?
Here.
Mr. Leba? Mr. Sanders?
Here.
Mr. Cunha?
Here.
Through the chair, we have quorum.
Okay, thank you. Okay, next is to approve the minutes from August 28th, 2025. Is there any corrections or additions from the members to the minutes previously submitted? Okay, hearing none. Are there any public comments on the minutes from the previous meeting date?
Are there any public comments in the north? In Modesto? Are there any public comments in Bakersfield?
No public comment in Bakersfield.
No comments in Fresno, none online.
Okay, thank you. Minutes are approved as submitted. Okay. Public comments. This time is made available for comments from the public on matters that are not on the agenda. It is requested that no comments be made during this period on items on the agenda. The public may make comments on each EJAG agenda item during the time allowed for public comments. Attention is called to the fact that the EJAG is prohibited by law from taking any action on discussion of matters that are not on the agenda. Are there any public comments?
Are there any public comments in Bakersfield?
No public comment in Bakersfield.
Any public comments in Modesto?
No public comments in Modesto.
No public comments in Fresno, and none online.
Okay, I'd like to recognize that Ms. Vielma is now in Modesto. Probably jumped the gun on that, sorry. I just saw her and was like, oh, I got it. Okay, chair comments. At this time, I don't have any other than to thank you all for being here. You were pretty quorum by a lot this month, so I'm pretty happy about that. Thank you all.
Our phones.
I already said silence your
I know,
phone.
but I didn't hear you.
You're sitting right
Oh my
next to me.
God.
Oh
You
my
were
God,
the oldest member of the EJAG.
right,
That's the problem.
sitting right next to me, sitting right next to me. I'd send you to your room, but I need you here, so anyhow, moving on.
Maybe not.
Okay. We are at number 6 on the agenda, update on attainment plans and rules. This goal and objective number 8, if this satisfies goal and objective number 8, the EJAG will continue to be informed and updated regarding air quality and climate legislation and regulation as appropriate. Aye.
Madam Chair, members of the committee, Tim Franquist, Air Quality Planning Director. Not much change since last month, so it'll be a relatively brief update, but we'll go through a few things here. We did get final approval of the 1 hour ozone maintenance plan and redesignation request for last month. What that'll do is redesignate the area back to attainment and will terminate any anti-backsliding requirements. Of particular highlight is the 185 fee. On the flip side, we did get a finding of failure to attain for the 1997 ozone standard also last month, and that'll actually re-trigger the 185 fees. Oh, absolutely. Sorry. So on the failure finding of attainment of the 8 hour standard, that'll actually re-trigger our 185 fees. And then as we've been really celebrating all summer long, we did get a proposed determination of attainment for the 1997 annual PM 2.5 standard. We're hoping to hear something from the EPA, hopefully as soon as they get back, but we're waiting for final approval there. And then just in terms of our rules commitments regarding the PM 2.5 plans, we are continuing work on the 4901 wood burning fireplaces and heaters, as we are with the 4550 CMP. So we look to do stakeholder meetings hopefully later this year. And then lastly, on the ozone contingency measures, we are still working on the 5 coding rules. One of the major triggering events there is we do have a proposed approval by the EPA on the plan. Once we have more certainty there, which we should have hopefully the next month when they do return, according to what we told last month, we should be able to begin work on that plan again as well, excuse me, on those rules as well. So with that, we continue very robust stakeholder outreach with all those. But with that, that concludes my update.
Does anyone have any questions in Modesto? Okay, seeing none, does anyone have any questions in Bakersfield? Seeing none, anyone have any questions up here in Fresno? Okay, Keith?
Just checking to see if is there any impact affecting any of your work with the Trump closure of the feds?
Madam Chair, members of the committee, right now, it seems like a lot of the folks who we're dealing with EPA are actually still in the office. So I think there is some kind of carryover funds. So I haven't seen anything significant today, but we'll kind of see as that goes along.
Yeah, we're regularly communicating with the people that still are working. And so the people in the planning division of EPA in Region 9 are still actively working with Tim and his team. There are several, like the enforcement and several others are on furlough, but not the planning division at this point.
All right, thank you very much. We'll move on to number 7, verbal report on the state budget. This goal and objective satisfies number 6, goal and objective, working with the district, other EJ advocates throughout the state and valley businesses and municipalities to advocate for the valley's fair share of state cap and trade funds. Hello.
Good evening, Chair, members of the committee. Mark Montalongo, Director of Policy and Government Affairs, here to provide you a verbal update on the state budget. With respect to the state's 25-26 budget, the district advocated for the reauthorization and securing of ongoing cap and trade, also known as cap and invest, funds for cost-effective clean air incentive programs such as farmer, community air protection, also known as 617 funding, alternatives to agricultural burning, and clean cars for all. The legislature and the administration agreed and adopted a budget in late June of 2025. Overall, some of the district's clean air funding priorities have been included in the budget due to the ongoing advocacy of the district and valley stakeholders, even in a very difficult budget year with a significant deficit. We were able to secure community air protection funding in the state's 25-26 budget of $100 million, which was signed by the governor on September 17th via SB 105. There was a $250 million continuous appropriation for that program funding beginning in 25-26 through 2045, which was signed by the governor on September 19th via SB 840. So this amounts to about $5 billion over the next 20 years where the valley gets a significant portion of the funding. It works because in the past, the district would have to allocate for this or advocate for this funding every single year. So there's a continuous appropriation there. The Clean Cars for All program, $25 million in the state's 25-26 budget, which was signed by the governor on September 17th via SB 105. Under this program, we've replaced over 9,000 high polluting vehicles with newer, cleaner alternatives. So it's a very, very popular program here in the San Joaquin Valley. It's important to note that although not all of our district air quality priorities were funded through the reauthorization of the Cap and Invest program, there's about $1 billion in discretionary greenhouse gas reduction funds that the district will aggressively advocate for to ensure programs such as farmer and alternatives to ag burn are funded, and working with our valley stakeholders on that. Farmer will be at the top of the list going into this year's session. There's lots of comments made by legislators about how they felt farmer should have been funded. The Legislative Analyst Office has determined that the farmer program is one of the top 3 cost-effective programs throughout the state based on dollars spent and emission reductions achieved. So obviously it'll be a competitive environment, but we're ready to go advocate to bring more funding into the valley with our valley stakeholders. So that concludes my update. I'll turn it back to the chair. Thank you.
Through the chair,
Yes.
I just want to recognize, I know it was in terms of the funding, ongoing funding for the community air protection program, that was a huge effort. It was definitely working alongside a lot of different organizations, community residents. I know Naimeen and her organization advocated strongly for it. It's a testament to the impact that the program is having across communities all throughout the state and the benefits that it's bringing. And so definitely want to thank everybody that did provide feedback to the legislature in regards to the importance of the program. And yeah, we're just really excited and about the opportunities that it's going to continue to provide, especially residents in our valley.
Yeah, I was going to say congratulations to everyone involved. I mean, it's huge. I'll open it for questions or comments to Bakersfield. Seeing none. Modesto, any questions or comments? Seeing none. We'll go back here to Fresno, and I see Manuel's lights on.
Yes, thank you. Thank you very much. Today, ARB had a board meeting. I understand some of us could not attend because some of us are involved in a national truck law. After yesterday's accident down south, has created a real issue for trucking in the United States. And so DOT is having a lot of emergency meetings and regulatory discussions. So I want to make clear, I apologize for not being on the call today for ARB. But ARB has some 1,800 staff and a budget of somewhere around 700 or 800 million, no, or maybe 8 or 9 billion, excuse me. But did you attend the board meeting today or?
Yeah, we were watching.
Was the discussion of meeting the SIP obligations, was there discussion of going after stationary sources to make up the mobile source part that don't have the waivers for? And then my second question, was there a discussion of a statewide ISR rule? Was there any discussion in the board about those today?
There were public, so in terms of the presentations themselves, that was not the focus. The focus was talking about the impacts that the federal actions that were taken and how that was going to impact the existing state implementation plans that we have. And then CARB talked about, kind of their plan moving forward to address some of the shortfalls in emission reductions that are going to result from that. There were commenters that or comments that were made by attendees and people watching the meeting in regards to encouraging the state to look at a statewide ISR. And in addition to, there was feedback in regards to stationary sources that there's potentially additional opportunities out there, and encourage them to continue to look at that.
So the opportunity is to shut down the business.
Well,
When you're at 98%, I don't know how much more you can squeak out of.
Yeah, so the feedback from the executive officer once again reiterated the fact that the majority of the emissions are mobile in nature, and that needs to be a focal point of any state implementation plan.
Okay. One other question on the budget. If I'm not mistaken, for clarity, and I wrote it down because I want to make sure I really understand it. We have a cap and trade that was agreed to go forward, the new cap and trade to the year 2045, $20 billion. Of the 20 billion, that 1 billion per year is given to the rail. Is that correct? Is that what? Now,
Yes.
because I'm going to come with the rest of it, right? But so we're going to carve out $1 billion for the rail. Taken out of cap and trade, which is to reduce emissions. And people,
High
Yeah.
speed rail.
yeah, high-speed rail. Well, if you want me to say it clearly, the train to nowhere, high-speed rail, okay?
At 85 miles an hour.
But we've taken money from air quality projects. And I look at the 3-4 you run. The greatest is the Clean Car Program. Incredible, and you get $25 million. When you have enough to do 60, 70 million in rural communities, not Los Angeles or not San Francisco. So we're going to take and carve out $1 billion for that. I also understand that they took $1.5 billion out of cap and trade for CAL FIRE to fight fires. And that's supposed to come clearly out of the Constitution of this state, out of the general budget, and not out of air quality. Again, taking money from rural communities, that we have a lot of great projects. But it leads me now back to, we have $1 billion that we're going to have flexibility on in 26 year, or is that for 27 year?
That'll be next year and the following. So each year there'll be $1 billion in discretionary funding.
And that is to be used to how many industries or how many groups will have access to that billion?
So I think it's estimated about $7 billion in asks or $1 billion in discretionary funding that's available.
So we have $1 billion and we have 7 billion ask. And yet we want to clean up because the truck situation. But we want, so I just don't get it. I just don't understand it when you have some of the most greatest programs to still try to meet our SIP. And if it's with vehicles, farm tractors is probably the most cost-effective program out there. And it's real. If anybody says it's not real, then they're on something. Because every tractor that goes to the equipment yard is crushed, literally crushed. So, well, I'm giving you some history because you need to understand what's going on here. I'm not going to have ARB tell me in the year 26 and 27 of what crops to grow and what do I do with my cows' emissions, just like COG is doing in Fresno County. If you're going to tell me how many cows I could have, and how many bulls I can have on a farm, and how much manure, and the greatest, we're doing tremendous emission reductions, Keith, not Keith. Excuse me. Yeah, that you need to understand is we got a real problem. The district lobbied tremendously with everybody for tractor money. We went into an ag burn. And thank God for the district that the funds you have had is able to continually to run. We were promised, Keith, to have money for a period of years to get that program going. And farmers said, okay, as long as we have help. Because the amount of emissions, we took out all the biomass plants. Okay, so now we have farmers out there that are not going to be burning, can't burn, and have to chip it and spread it. They can't afford it. There's no way they can afford it, period. Okay, so we entered in good faith in all these projects, and yet we got nothing. And I don't think the 25 million, I mean, I think that's fantastic what we got, but you dang well deserve more, especially when I heard that in mid-August last year or this last year, you were cut off the total monies and they yet had 250 million in the budget, BRB did. So it's just kind of a question of asked. Is there a group of people with air districts that are working together to try to figure out how do we get a piece of that billion? Because if we take 150 million or 100 million for farm tractor, now that leaves 900 million, right? And then if LA, South Coast goes after whatever. So the pie becomes so little. And yet the reductions that you guys have done in the farmer program has been tremendous. I mean, it helped us in even the PM10 did a lot. So it just bothers me that we want to do clean up the air, the rural communities, the 617 projects have been tremendous. You as a staff have done great jobs with each of the areas, especially when you took a place that was created mud and you put a sidewalk down, and when it's dry, the dirt, now there's a sidewalk. Even that little bit helps a lot. So it really does. So I'm just concerned because if we only have $1 billion, then what priority do we go after? Because if we go after 20 million for the tractor program, and I believe, Ryan, we have 7,000 tractors in the queue.
That's correct.
We stopped taking applications because we have to get through this first.
Yeah, we paused accepting any new applications because like there's no committed additional
800
funding.
million, 800 million needed to do 7,000 tractors. And they're real emissions.
No, it's thank you for bringing this up. I mean, that was in CARB strategy that they proposed, one of the key components is incentives. And part of that conversation that several of the board members talked about directly was the farmer program. Because it is, when you look in terms of emission reductions, one of, if not the most cost effective in terms of getting emission reductions. And so several people highlighted that during the meeting today. So, I mean, Mark can speak more to it. I know many of you are familiar with Samir and the way that he works, across organizations in forming advocacy groups to go and really appeal for this money, and how successful we've been as an organization. And I know in terms of farmer, it's not just us, it's, working with other air districts across the state as well, because they benefit from that program and those emission reductions. So there's going to be a strong contingent advocating very strongly when it comes to that discretionary funding. And at least from what we're hearing, CARB board members expressed an understanding of the benefits of that program, and if money were put to that, what that would mean in terms of getting emission reductions where they're needed.
Is the money controlled by CARB on the $1 billion?
No, it's the legislature.
Okay, so I would imagine you guys are going to come up with a plan that we, the EJAG and the CAC, could have an idea of what we should be working on together, rather than trying to do 10 projects, 7 projects. And if we only have a piece of that pie, then what do we need to do to help make things keep going? But I think it would be great that if the district has a plan, you're going to know the best. Samir and your team, Samir's team and you guys and gals are going to know what's the best. And it would be great for us to have that continual dialogue with you so the EJAG can support what you believe is the best things to support for this $1 billion. And then also having the collaboration with the CAC. So I'll stop there. Thank you.
Ms. Keith.
So that was part of the question I was going to ask earlier was, Ryan, who has this, I'm going to go ahead and expose my ignorance here. How does this budget being put out there for this sustainable amount of time and knowing you have these funds, how does that change your guys' strategy and how does it affect what you think maybe how you can do allocations and how you fight for the funds? Does it affect that and impact that?
Yes, I mean, one Mark touched on it. Before this continuous appropriation, every single year, we've brought this up to the EJAG meetings. You've worked, like many of your CAC members, you've done letters of support that we've used to send to the legislature in regards to advocating for those funds. So that, since it's a continuous appropriation, that work doesn't need to be done. As Manuel's talking about, there's a lot of other areas outside of AB 617 where we need to see continued funding. Yes, there's an allocation for Clean Cars for All. That's another important program that we're going to continue to advocate for funding. Farmer program, alternatives to ag burn, all these different things, we're still going to need to continue to advocate for funding for all those programs. And, there's a whole host of other things that are going to come up, as we're looking to work with the state to address the shortfall in the mobile emissions that are going to happen. So it just diverts the work. It doesn't lessen it in any way. It just changes the focus.
So can you use your resources and your capacities to go after competitive calls for that money? Competitive asks? Can you guys really do that?
If there is a pot of money that we think that we qualify or eligible, or sometimes it's not us directly.
Yeah.
Sometimes it's supporting other agencies, organizations that are looking to apply for grants and get funding that way. We are extremely supportive in those efforts. If there's a dollar out there, we want to see it come to the valley.
Yeah. So like nobody would touch the sacred cow of the high-speed rail, right? We don't want to go after that and say, how do you look at that? Like Manuel's right. He's really right. Got money that's being sucked down a black hole, and that money could be going to really good, absolutely good programs right now that even CARB admits the farmer program is the most successful program in the whole damn thing, but yet they'll be willing to sacrifice parts of that program in order to have a black hole, high-speed rail.
What we do is we advocate for the funds and ultimately let the legislature determine where they pull them from. We just make the case that we need the funds here for emission reductions.
So advocacy would be helpful if you could get it from both sides.
All advocacy.
Yeah.
The strongest message is it's not from one group, it's from all groups. And here the challenge of clean air is everybody's in everybody's interest. It's not limited to one group. It's everybody. We all live here. We all benefit from it. So the better the bigger group from the varying backgrounds, the better.
And I think your success so far shows that it's worth the effort. And I think a lot of people need to know that, get behind it. Nasty Farmers League, the Punjab group, farming group, the Westlands Water District, a lot of guys need to get behind this stuff and really push in the advocacy side in legislature for you. Thank you.
Yeah, well, I do agree that we all need clean air and that monies are not enough for everything that is needed. So therefore, And because it's not only here in the state, but also all the waivers that we don't have at the federal level, that no monies are coming down from the federal government, period, then we need to start thinking more out of the box. And that's why, a lot of the environmental justice organizations, including the one I work for, put forth some other ideas of how to get these reductions that we need. And that goes from, enforcing more best available control, technology, based available retrofit control, revisit the residential wood burning for those. We know that we have gone to the point where, we have the hotspot area and that's more rigid there, but maybe we need to do it across the board. And many other things that I think we need to start thinking, having more meaningful contingency measures. So I think that when we don't have the money, we need to look for other ideas, and we all need to put our part to do it.
Okay, thank you for those comments and questions. We'll move on now to agenda item number 8, winter residential wood smoke reduction strategy.
Oh, talking about that.
This goal and objective is number 4, increase public participation in the efforts of EJAG, and goal objective number 7, work with the district to enhance the effectiveness of emission reduction incentive programs in EJ communities in San Joaquin Valley. Hello.
Good evening. And thank you, Naomi. That's a perfect segue to this topic. That was great. I'm John Klassen. I'm the Director of Air Quality Science, and being joined by Jamie Holt, Chief Communications Officer, and we'll give you an overview of what happened the last winter season, which ended quite a while ago, but it's relevant because this next winter season, when we run this program, is next week, about a week from now. It'll be November 1st, so we're getting geared up for this. So to give a little bit of background why this is so important, and you guys know this very well, being impacted by wood smoke has a huge impact on human health, especially wood smoke, even more than other types of PM 2.5. It can cause lung disease and decrease lung function in children, create hypertension, heart disease, cancer, heart failure, even neurological effects. A lot of new research is coming out on that. And residential wood burning during the wintertime is one of the largest sources of direct PM 2.5 during those winter months. And this happens right in neighborhoods where people are living. And so when we have those winter conditions, those temperature inversions that can place a lid over the bowl of the valley, those wood smoke emissions can get trapped right in the neighborhood where people are living. We've been implementing this strategy for quite some time now, compared to emissions from wood smoke being emitted without any control versus where we are now. It's one of the largest PM 2.5 reductions from this strategy that we have, one of the lowest cost as well. And like I mentioned, this gets smoke reductions right in neighborhoods where people are living. And this has helped us attain a number of air quality standards in the past, and we listed them here. The PM10 standard a number of years ago, the 24-hour standard of 65 micrograms for PM 2.5. We recently attained that 15 microgram annual standard of PM 2.5, and we're continuing to progress towards the other PM 2.5 standards. So just a quick highlight of this last winter season, some of the different successes we saw. We like to track these different metrics from winter season to winter season. And for the 24-25 winter season, we saw a low average concentration of PM 2.5 across the valley. We continue to stay in attainment of that 65 microgram 24-hour standard. The month of November specifically, we saw a record low number of days when we exceeded the more stringent 24-hour standard of 35 micrograms. And that's really good to see that November, which historically can be a challenging month, was really clean this last winter season. We also saw 0 exceedances over that standard in the month of February for the second winter season in a row, which is really good. So we're kind of seeing both November and February, those higher values becoming less and less frequent. And I'll show a chart where showing that it's kind of narrowing down to the months of December and January. We saw an increasing number of good and moderate air quality index days, and I'll show a chart for that as well. So overall, we saw some really good metrics across the air quality standards. So Naomi, you mentioned the hotspot approach, and yes, that has been in place for 6 winter seasons now. This was the 6th season when we had a hotspot approach for the counties of Madera, Fresno, and Kern. So their thresholds are more stringent, which means they have more wood burning curtailments throughout the winter season compared to the other counties. And this was the 6th time we implemented this, along with public education and incentives program enhancements that came into place a number of years ago. So there are a lot of numbers here, but I'll just try to draw your attention down to the very bottom of this table, that blue row that highlights the number of wood burning curtailments we had for each county in the 24-25 winter season. So all the way on the bottom right, you can see the total number of county days there where we had a curtailment across the valley among all the counties. So you can see that it was generally less than the total we've seen the past few winter seasons, reflecting that air quality was better this last winter season than what we've seen in the past few years. And then looking at how that's reflected in the EPA air quality index, these are the different colors that you're probably familiar with. Green being good, yellow being moderate, orange unhealthy for sensitive, and red unhealthy. And this is specifically just for the winter season for PM 2.5. So as you look closely at this, if you start all the way on the left-hand side, about 25 years ago, when we first started to measure PM 2.5, we saw about half of the days during the winter season among our valleys counties were either orange or red, which is not good. These are days that we are exceeding the health standard. And as you look from the left to right, you see those days becoming less and less frequent, and we see more green and yellow days, where if you go all the way to the right-hand side, you see our last winter season, the vast majority of days during the year are either green or yellow, and just a small portion are orange or red. But we still need to make progress and reduce those orange and red days even more to attain all of the PM standards. But comparing to where we used to be to where we are now, it's something to really be happy about the progress we're making. And this is the same data, just focusing just on the green good days and the red unhealthy days. So going back in time to that first winter season when we had PM 2.5 data, you can see that the number of unhealthy red days were much more than our good days across the valleys counties. And now if you go forward in time to this last winter season, it's the opposite. Now we have way more good days than unhealthy days. So those two types of values have flip-flopped over the last 25 years. And then looking at an average of the number of days we've exceeded that 35 microgram daily standard for a long period before our most recent rule amendment. So on the top of this table, this showed, for example, in November, we had 76 days that we exceeded that standard across all of our valleys counties. And then December had 86 days and so forth. That green row right below that shows the number of days that we've exceeded that standard on average since the 2019 rule amendment. So kind of comparing an older time period versus a more recent time period. And you can see in that bottom row there shows the percent reduction between those two periods. So across all these different months, we were seeing much fewer days where we're exceeding that 24-hour standard now compared to what we used to see in the past. And I mentioned this a few minutes ago, and I won't talk about all the details of what we're showing here, but this is essentially showing how much each month of the winter season is contributing to the average PM 2.5 during that winter season. So we have the different patterns there for the different months in each of these stacked bar charts. And so the point I wanted to make here was if you look in the past on the left-hand side of this chart, you can see that the months of November and February used to play a pretty big role in contributing to the average PM 2.5 we would see in the winter season. And then if you go all the way to the right-hand side, you see, for example, this last winter season, November and February play a much smaller role in impacting the average for the winter season. So we're kind of seeing a narrowing of the months of the year that really contribute to the peak PM 2.5, where now it's really December and January is the real peak part of the year where we see highest PM 2.5. So it's good to see that narrowing down. We've seen this with ozone as well, where the ozone season during the summer used to be a much longer time period, and now it's really narrowed down to just a few months when we see our peak values. So we've seen some of the same pattern with PM 2.5, which is an indication of things improving. And we've seen improvement to not just the months of the year or time of the year, but the time of the day. We've been tracking this as well, where we look at the average concentration, hourly concentration for different time periods of PM 2.5. And so in this chart here, if you look at that top curve, that is the average PM 2.5 for that hour during the 2002-2003 winter season. So you see a much higher concentration there, and you see that evening peak, that kind of that curve at the top around 8 or 9 o'clock in the evening. Then as you go forward in time, you see that line coming down where we're not seeing as high values as we used to see during those evening hours. And also that curve that we used to see, that higher peak, which we feel is an indication of a lot of burning activity in the neighborhoods, is kind of flattening out too. So we're not seeing that signature that we used to see in the past. Now it's a much flatter curve there, showing that not only are concentrations getting lower, we're not seeing that kind of signal of a lot of burning activity in the neighborhoods in the evening. And then just real quick, just the meteorology we saw during the winter season. As we know, this directly has an impact on the air quality we see. So we did have alternating patterns of good and poor atmospheric dispersion. We saw storms come through, then we saw high pressure putting the lid over the bowl of the valley, a lot of back and forth this last winter season. We had some periods of very strong temperature, atmospheric stability, which happened on December 7th was the peak of it when we saw some of the highest concentrations of PM 2.5. And just showing that month by month here, that these are different values showing the atmospheric stability. And just to be clear, atmospheric stability is a bad thing for air quality. It basically is an indication of not much air movement, the lid being placed over the bowl of the valley. And so that the higher the bar that we have here, the more stable the atmosphere is, and therefore the air quality is probably going to be worse during that time period. So the blue bar here is what we saw this last winter season for each month. And then that hashed bar is an average over a longer time period. So November was better dispersion wise than what we've seen in the past. December was a little more stable. January was a very stable month during this last winter season, and February was a little less stable. Stable is bad, yeah. Unstable is good. So one last comparison here. So again, we're showing atmospheric stability. That's the blue bar. So the higher that bar is, the more challenging it can be for air quality. Then the green line there is the average concentration of PM 2.5 across the valley. So if you go all the way to the right-hand side here, we show what our stability was there, and then our average PM 2.5. And then if you look from the right, and then you move your eyes to the left to find another winter season when our atmospheric stability was about the same. You can see that in the 2019-2020 winter season, the atmosphere was about the same, but the concentration of PM 2.5 was slightly higher. And then you keep looking to the left a little bit more, and you find another season there, 2014-2015, similar atmosphere, and concentrations were even higher. You keep doing that again. You go a little further to the left, 2006-2007, concentrations were even higher then. And then all the way back roughly 25 years ago, we saw a similar atmosphere, but concentrations were over double than what we see now. So the interesting thing about looking at this is that even with similar weather conditions now, our air quality is much better than it used to be back in the past when we had similar weather conditions. So this is a strong indication of emissions decreasing in the valley, but even with a difficult and challenging atmospheric environment, that our concentrations are much lower now compared to when we had similar conditions in the past. And actually, this is the last slide for me. We also look at different components of PM 2.5, and we can see this in the speciation analysis that's done throughout the valley. And there are two core pieces that we look at that really drive wintertime concentrations of PM 2.5, and that's ammonium nitrate, and that's the blue bar here. And then organic carbon, that is the orange bar. And so we're seeing a decline in both of these key elements here over time, and it's really important that we continue to progress and attack these two different pieces of PM to keep making the progress that we need to make. And I'll pass it to Jamie to talk about our outreach efforts. Yeah. Yeah.
Sure, let's go ahead and take some questions on this part of the report. We'll start with Keith.
Okay, one of my questions is that we really need to see, I mean, these are great graphs. Thank you. Great job on this. It'd be really neat to see what it looked like in the 40s, 50s, and 60s. Just to see really how far we've really come. I think that's going to really look kind of,
Were things even measured back then?
well, see, I don't, yeah, they didn't exist, right?
Yeah,
But we
Just
could,
to comment.
we know how bad it was, right?
so for ozone, we have a really long record of ozone back to like the 60s, 50s, but
Yeah.
for PM 2.5, those measurements didn't start until about 1999.
Okay, so we
So-
do have ozone measurements though.
Yeah.
We could compare the ozone. So the other question I have is that, get back to my questions. You just answered one of them. Sorry, this is a long report, so it's hard to track these. I know you guys you deserve a lot of credit for, and we deserve a lot of credit for the Clean Air Act doing all this. It's really good. But there's some other things that maybe Manuel could support on that farmers and the farming industry have changed. And I think that the district should recognize some of these changes. And one of them is organic farming. Another one's called regenerative cultural practices. A lot of these new cultural practices that farmers have initiated have created less trips across the field, less need to work the ground, especially in the no-till side of the program. And no-till is big back in the Midwest, but those programs are in addition to, specialty equipment that they have where they can make a one pass. So it's like a one pass piece of equipment where before in the old days, we take a disc, we take a chisel, and we're going across the field back and forth multiple times. Now they make equipment where you just one pass, you're done. So I think maybe, what I'm trying to say is that maybe it might be an interesting study to do, or even agenda item to see if we could collaborate with the industry, some of the top tier people in the farming industry, to see how much that the district could enhance some of those types of programs. The regenerative ag program, the organic farming program, and the specialty equipment program. That's the only reason I wondered.
Keith,
Yeah.
the district has a program and it was announced in the rulemaking at the beginning. We have a thing called CMPs, Conservation Management Practices, that was done in 2004, I believe, Ryan. It talks about all of those things already, and farmers update annually their changes to their practices, no matter what type of practices, what type of optimizer that may be used, that does 6-in-1 activities of cultivation. That is already in there. We had to use that. And that's how the district became the first air district in the country to meet its PM10 standard. It was because of the CMPs, conservation management practices, that the district does. And so I'm not trying to take Ryan's thing away, but that was a thing we started.
No, I appreciate that, man. Yeah.
And we started in 2004 because we had to be responsible. And so farmers and ranchers and goats and chickens are all doing the same thing. So, but they are doing that, and it's happening annually. So I'll stop there. Thank you.
Yeah, through the chair, like to highlight, one of the big things, you talked about it, the level of thankfulness that we have, not just, we have a campaign right now that is thanking everybody for the steps that they're taking, and whether you're a resident, whether you're a business, whether you're a farmer, the emission reductions that we're seeing, while the majority of it is probably attributable to the reductions in burning wood burning devices in the home. A lot of that also may have to do with the measures that farmers are taking on field and other actions from people choosing to drive electric and all these other things that also reduce PM 2.5 emissions. And so we're definitely, as an organization, we want to make sure that everybody feels appreciated for the steps and actions that they're taking to reduce air pollution.
Yeah, the wildfires being one of them, but the the point I think I was going back to was that, even if we all do our share, it's a team effort, right?
Are there any questions or comments in Modesto on this part of the presentation?
Yes, I don't know if we've had this before or not in terms of the correlation between the reduction that we have here and the increase in the incentive programs, because some of them right early on were like pilots, and then they increased in funding. And so I don't know if we've had like a side-by-side comparison of that, because, just to see how it correlates to the reduction. Obviously it does, but just in terms of the numbers, I was just curious about that.
Further.
Yeah, maybe that will be covered further in the presentation, SB. If it's not, we can bring it back.
Okay, any questions or comments in Bakersfield? Okay, seeing none, we will continue with the second half of the presentation. Thank you.
Good evening. This has been and continues to be one of the most cost-effective strategies that we have. That is that it reduces a whole bunch of pollution for not a lot of cost. That's one of the things that we really like to remind people. While there are a myriad of different strategies we have, some of those are really expensive to implement. And what's been great about this, asking folks to not do something that really in essence doing cost them money. It's just been a really positive campaign and strategy for the district. Just to give you a little snapshot of our outreach statistics for last year, we want to mention this because really getting the public to buy into this program initially was really rough back in 2003, 2004. Getting people to understand the impacts of their residential wood burning was pretty big. Fortunately, folks are much more plugged in now than they used to be. We had nearly 30,000 calls made to our 1-800 bilingual automated line that gives you the wood burning status, basically tells you whether or not it's a day that it's okay for you to use your wood burning device. We had over 200,000 visits to our residential wood smoke reduction webpage, which has a lot of information on it. We received over 270 public complaints. I'm going to talk a little bit more about complaints in a minute. And we received over 37 million total impressions. Those are people looking at our posts across all our various platforms. Moving forward, we're going to continue some of the strategies that have been successful over the last few years. One being really the health impacts of wood smoke. We really want folks to understand that when they're using the residential fireplace, the folks that are being most impacted by that is folks living in that home and folks living right next to them. And while folks maybe don't think, and I've had folks tell me that they love to use their fireplace because it helps with their arthritis, it helps with their emphysema, which those people are crazy. It is something where we have to get folks to buy into the fact that the science tells us, in the same way that we all used to be smoking cigarettes and we found out that that will give you lung cancer, using your residential wood fireplace, that's really just putting that smoke directly into the home that you're living in and that home's directly in your neighborhood. We want folks to understand that there are steps they can take to protect their health. We want them to understand that they can call. There are days when it's less stagnant, when it's like, it's like Wizard of Oz tornado time where that air quality is moving around and it's not building up, that you can use your wood burning device. We're not telling you don't ever use it. Just really make sure that the conditions are right so that smoke dissipates really quickly. And then of course we have a great grant program that really incentivizes moving up to a gas device or an electric device. we do a whole mix of outreach, and I've come to this group before and talked about it. And actually you guys have given us great feedback on it. It's paid advertising, it's press coverage and social media posts. It's really having this ongoing communication with the public, talking about it. We're kind of re-upping a campaign this year where we're trying to get out to realtors, real estate agents, to make sure that they understand some of the aspects of this rule, because in addition to it being about not using your wood burning device on certain days, we do have rules in place about taking some of that really older equipment. And I've seen some stoves that look like they were brought out here during the Dust Bowl on the, like when my Oklahoma kin came out here. Getting some of that stuff out of homes is no longer optional. Some of that older stuff, you have to take it out when you're selling a home. So we're doing a new round of outreach to our realtor community to make sure that they understand that that's that part of that big packet that you have to go through when you buy a house. We do bilingual advertising. We've been really successful in the last couple of years with a suite of ads that are basically two types. We've got one that's geared on the grant program. We've got one that talks about electric heat pumps. Then we have two, one in English and one in Spanish, that talk about just the change out program in general. And then we have a little bit more hipper, we call it our mysterious stranger one, where we talk about both making sure you're looking at whether or not it's a day when you can burn, and also a second one that talks about that outdoor fire pit is subject to this rule. So if you are burning logs in an outdoor fire pit, you need to check and make sure it's a day that you can do that, because we'll give you a ticket for that too. Bilingual advertising, social media. We do a lot of anymore of what's called connected TV. This is your streaming platforms, your Hulu's, your YouTube TVs. There's so many now, it's kind of exhausting, but smart engine or search engine marketing. That's when folks go and they're looking, say if there's go and they say Home Depot gas logs, and Google puts all those sponsored responses up. One of them will be about our grant program. I will also say that we really target this advertising to areas where there are older homes. In most of the communities in the Valley, homes that have been built in about the last 20 years, give or take, weren't built with wood burning devices. So it's really our older neighborhoods, our older kind of stock of homes, and it's those zip codes where we target this marketing. So if you think, I never see those, I bet you live in one of our newer developments. So just something to think about. We have our smartphone app, and then we do a lot just in coordination with our meteorologists and our weathermen, a lot, and women. A lot of them actually give the wood burning status when they're talking about the air quality forecast on the evening news. So that's a great partnership we have. This is just an example of our outreach. You'll see a couple clips from our commercials. That one in the top right corner is our Spanish changeout commercial. Then kind of the other couple right in the center is our English changeout commercial. Connie Young, who's often at our governing board meetings and is just a wonderful advocate here in Fresno. She's in our heat pump commercial. She actually is one of the folks, and we are seeing more and more every year, folks who go through our grant program, take out their wood burning device and either close up their fireplace. They can just put a lid on it and we'll give them a small little incentive to basically making their fireplace so that you can't use it anymore, or who are putting in a heat pump. And I will tell you, a heat pump is a great way to heat and cool your home. It's horribly named. I invested in them. I didn't go through a grant program, but invested in them in my home. And they are more energy efficient. And what's great about them, in a lot of cases, you can really kind of put the heat on in certain rooms without having to heat your entire home. And then of course, my favorite social media campaign that we did last year had to do about your pets being susceptible to poor air quality. And as I had a cute little dog who had a collapsed trachea, so he sounded like he had emphysema all the time. So I can tell you that limiting the amount of pollutions you're creating in your home really can make a difference. This may or may not play. Can you see? I think it's just a clip, isn't it? I think we just clipped this as a screenshot. I do want to point out, if you want to see our TV commercials, and there are, like I said, just for this campaign, there are 5 of them, and they're on our YouTube channel. So go to our Healthier Living YouTube channel and you can see all of them.
Before you play this, can I ask you a question?
I don't think we're actually in play today. I think we just wanted to show you a screenshot.
I just wanted to, because you're really pitching the heat pumps. They're all electric, aren't they?
They are all electric.
So what's the backup source for keeping yourself warm if the power goes down for an extended period of time?
Well, it's one of those things. It's like anything. I would say, if you're,
Or in a battery, with a loan battery.
if your electricity goes out, it's all the things in your home that you're going to struggle with. I actually would be more concerned about the thousands of dollars in my refrigerator, and I'd put on another sweater. But that's
Well,
legit.
see,
It's the risk.
my biggest concern has from day one has been this whole anti-natural gas thing. Natural gas
Well,
is so freaking clean.
And we are not anti-natural gas. I want to say that we
But
are
the
not.
state has been pushing the
But
whole.
we are
Yeah.
not.
Yeah.
We have a grant program and we are giving folks options.
Yeah, so we could replace, instead of boarding up your fireplace, like you said, you could go put in a natural gas
Correct. Correct.
unit,
And I will say the
and
reason
then you
we
can use the battery to
The-
work the motor on the blower.
the reason we put that option in for the fireplace for decommissioning your fireplace is because the public wanted it.
Mhm.
And on honesty, there was a handful of folks that said, it's ugly, it's old, I don't want a fireplace, I never use it, it's just an eyesore. I just want to board it up, I want to put a lid on my chimney. Will you guys give me some money for that? And our board, after years of discussion, said, you know what, we will. That's a good idea.
They could get cold.
Yeah, yeah. Well, some people want to do it. So we give them the option and then, they decide what they're going to do. I don't know if we can we play? But again, and we do have multiple commercials. So I think you're just going to get one of our English ones, but we do have multiple. You know what? And just look at, everyone has this on paper in front of them. So while they're pulling them up, I'm going to go to compliance assistant. That's the next slide. Oh my goodness. I tell you, the issue with needing 14 different types of glasses is the real one. People, oh, and they're ready. They're ready already. We were fast.
We're the Roberts and we live in Fresno County. We went through the fireplace change out program.
Fireplace has always been a part of my living experience. We love it. We use it daily.
First of all, you're not putting particulates in the air. Second of all, it's clean. Third, it looks nice. The program from start to finish, finding a fireplace insert to getting it installed was quite easy. It just pays to do it.
We have a very similar commercial in Spanish. All of this campaign it's called our Believe It campaign, and they're all real folks who went through our program. So we have that's a little English speaking couple. We have a Spanish speaking couple. That's adorable. They're adorable too. We have Connie Young who went through the heat pump program. So it's a whole suite of commercials that will begin to show. We usually start around mid-November with our campaign. I'd love to do more, but they won't give me a $10 million budget. So we're a little limited on. Mhm. Yeah. And part of it too is I bet you anything that the Roberts, they went from wood to gas. And I bet you anything their kids, who are probably somewhere out there, if they buy an older home, they might go from gas to electric, and the next folks might buy a home without a fireplace. So we want to make sure the goal is meeting people where they're at and getting them to move a little bit. If we can get folks to move a little bit, then maybe we can get them to move a little bit more, and then we can get them to move a little bit more. All right, we'll come back. I'm going to keep going because I just have a few more slides. So you talked about kind of the science behind it. We've got this outreach campaign, the education behind it. We also have the stick behind it. So we do have inspectors that during the winter season, they basically do two types of investigations. One is we're out in neighborhoods where we have had violators in the past. We know these are older neighborhoods, they're older homes, they have wood burning devices. They're out in my neighborhood. So that's part of it. We also are responding to complaints, and we get a lot of complaints and we respond to them very quickly. We report back, and we spend a lot of staff time out in neighborhoods. We don't knock on doors. We aren't on private property. We actually have some really cool cameras that can see at night. The technology, Ryan can attest to this, is night and day to compare to where it was when we started this program 20 some odd years ago to where it is now. Last year, we were knocking on about 400 notices of violation. Folks get a $100 ticket. They can cut that in half if they come to our very fun smoke school. And I will tell you, most folks do take that option. And it is not very often that we get repeat offenders. Once we kind of explain to people what's going on, it is very common too that once we show people the grant program, they'll decide to go through our grant program. There are higher penalties for repeat offenders. If folks are going to say, not me, I'm not playing, I don't want to pay, we'll give them another ticket and we will take them to small claims court. And we are serious about this. Our goal is to get people educated and making the right decision, give them money for a grant to switch them out. But we also have people comply, or we have people go through the process that we need to get them to comply with the rule.
Real quick. Jamie's absolutely correct. I mean, the state law says that, you know, for like continued violations, we have to continue to escalate those penalties in order to stop the actions. At the same time, you know, there have been a lot of instances where people maybe not received the previous notice of violations or other extenuating circumstances. We have what's called a mutual settlements department where we work with people. Our goal is always to work with people, understand their specific individual circumstances, and work with them on what ultimately a penalty is. So, I mean, we're never just like, this is the number, this is what you have to pay, no matter what the circumstances may be. We're always going to be, you know, we always listen to the circumstances. I mean, we want to avoid having to take cases to small claims. But at the same time, if people continue to violate our rules, we have to take strong action, because at the end, we need the action to stop. If we have rules that are on books that aren't enforced, then it results in continued noncompliance. And so I think some of the illustrations that John had in regards to the continuing decrease in emissions, I think one of the things you have to look at as part of the reason why is because we have strong enforcement. You know, at night, we have people driving the streets, looking to see if people are burning. We're responding to complaints at night. You know, when people get a ticket and it's like, you know, they ask to see the photo and it's very clear that it's their house and there's smoke coming from their chimney. You know, they don't, that's something they talk about with their friends.
Yeah.
Like that gets out to a much broader audience. It doesn't just stay with them. They're like, oh my gosh, I can't believe, like, I was burning it in my fireplace at 10 o'clock at night and their district caught me doing it. Like, and you know, they have like this camera technology that it's as clear as day that the smoke is coming out my chimney.
We don't have that kind of money.
Well,
We don't have satellite money.
So
We have camera money, not satellite money. We still don't have that
So
much.
on a separate note, there's not the technology that captures fireplaces, but there is for large burns. And that's well established. We use that to.
One of the stories that I like to tell, this happened last year before, is actually Sarah Hassan, the manager on Stephanie's team, back when before she got promoted. We had these two older gals come in, and sisters. They lived together and they had gotten 2 tickets, and they legitimately were using what they thought was an effective way to heat the front room of their home. And they were going to their local Safe Mart and buying wood on a regular basis, a couple times a week, to put wood in their front fireplace open hearth fireplace too. It's going to make a difference to heat that front room of their home. And they came in and they legitimately wanted to do the right thing. And they were legitimately feeling like we were putting them between a rock and a hard place because they could not pay their PG&E bill and to heat their entire home. They just wanted to heat the front room of their home just in the evening, heat it for them and their animals. And then they were going to go bundle up in bed with electric blanket and they'd be fine. After talking to them, we realized not only could we get them into our grant program, we could get them to our grant program that is for low income individuals, that the grant would basically, I think they ended up having almost all of it paid through the grant program. If you meet our low income criteria, you need to shop around a little bit with a retailer, but we'll get pretty close to paying for all of it. And because of the efficiency in how their new gas fire, they came back and talked to Sarah and I. They came back, talked to Sarah and I just to thank us end of the season. They came in and then because of the efficiency of this unit that the company had put into their fireplace and the fact that it had a fan on it and that it was a gas device, while they did see their PG&E bill go up a little bit, they weren't spending money on buying wood, that they were spending, you know, probably $100 a week on wood. And they actually were heating their home. I don't know why that wood, that's ridiculous, but yeah. And they were actually, they said they were older gals. They said it was much easier for them to not have to worry about cleaning up this fireplace. They felt it was safer and it ended up being something that really worked for them. And that is our goal. Our goal is to really get folks to understand and neither of them needed to be breathing the smoke from that fireplace. So we really do sit down. Sarah and I probably talked to these gals probably for 30 minutes to an hour when they came in the first time. And they are just an example of what we try and do and how, yes, we have the stick, but we also have the carrot. This is a snapshot of last year. And we do have funding in this grant program right now. If you are interested in changing out your wood burning device, go check it out. We'll give you some money. And the money depends on whether you're low income, whether you live in a hotspot county, not in a hotspot county, whether you're getting a gas device or a heat pump. So it's up to almost $5,000 now, depending on what you're getting. Last year, we had over 2,000 vouchers issued. We awarded almost $8 million. And that's during the last calendar year. Almost 1,000 of those were just during last winter season. This has been an incredibly successful program. We've put over 30,000 vouchers and over $72 million has been awarded. Again, I just said we currently have money in the bank for this program. Just a little bit has been used in the first part of this fiscal year. The question about the return on investment for this program, I will tell you, we don't exactly have those numbers because the dollar amount that we have incentivized this program with has really changed over the years. It started with just kind of a pittance. I want to say it was like $500 we'll give you for your $2,000 device. Like I said, now it's up to nearly $5,000 depending on the type of device you get with those low income folks. They're willing to shop around if depending on if they have gas already plumbed in and if it's not too complex, get pretty close to covering almost all that cost. We have added to our kind of some of our surveys that we do questions about trying to find that sweet spot so that we're giving enough money that folks are taking advantage of the program, but that we're not burning through the program in a month. So we work on trying to find that sweet spot. It's a great program. I encourage you guys to look into it, take advantage of it if you have an open hearth or a wood burning device in your home. What we won't pay for you if you have a fire pit in your backyard. We're not going to pay you to turn that into a gas fire pit in your backyard. I'm sorry. Again, we want to make sure that we're educating the public. This really, I think, is one of those ones that in the past 20 years, the public has kind of said, okay, I get it. I get it. And 90% of the folks out there, well, probably 20% of the folks out there are like, don't burn ever, anytime whatsoever. 60% are like, I get it. I'm going to limit my burning. I'm going to use gas. I'm going to do all the things. And then we probably have about 10% that are still a little like, wait a second. And we're trying to win those people over as well. We're really looking, John's team's looking, and we're finding more and more about the source of PM 2.5 in the valley. And if you take, we really can't, but if you take wildfires out of the equation, the gains that we've gotten from wood burning in the valley have just been extraordinary. We do have some enhancements to this rule that we'll probably start looking at next year. One, I think Naimeen might have mentioned it, it's looking at expanding the season. I feel like this is the week, there's maybe a couple of weeks on either side where we maybe start to see people. So they're looking at whether or not that truly does make a difference. Is it something we want to do? So that rule development will probably, I think it's on tap to start next year. Is that right? Is that what we're thinking? Yes. So that's all on the table. With that, questions? We're happy to answer questions.
Yeah, don't make sense. And I call on Naimeen first.
A couple of questions. So I have, well, a comment and a question. Would the enhancement of the district rule might include expanding the hotspot to all the entire valley or other counties that are not currently included? So that's the question. The comment is, I have been in this EJAG maybe 5 years or 6 years, and every time that we heard this presentation, I've been saying this. So you go around to neighborhoods on Halloween Day, and it's crazy. Everybody's burning fire pits, their fireplaces. I mean, it's just crazy. So why not include it even one day? I mean, so I think, and then just a comment. I check it in my phone right now and I could find it very easily, but last week I tried to submit a complaint in the website, and I don't know, I think the website changed, and it was very hard for me to find the where to go to submit a complaint. So I don't know if there can be something that is more, people can find it easier. And then the last thing, this is not about wood burning, but it's about burning. There's a lot of burning happening in rural areas, and that's trash burning. And unfortunately, some are repeater offenders, and still they're not, they're like, okay, I don't know, because a fine is not too large or what, that they continue doing it. So
I'll comment first on the season expansion and can we make all the counties a hotspot county? So that is something we're considering, the season expansion. Like you mentioned, like this time of the year, it's getting colder. They could be burning right now, or maybe even like early March. As we get into March, there's burning. Can we like expand that season a bit? So we are looking at that as potential enhancements to the rule. And then for the hotspot county thresholds, actually within the rule right now, there's a contingency measure for PM 2.5, where if EPA makes a finding that we fail to attain a PM 2.5 standard or show reasonable progress, that would then trigger a contingency where all of our non-hotspot counties would fall down to the hotspot thresholds. So if EPA does make that finding in the near future, then all the counties would be under that hotspot threshold. So because it's set aside as a contingency, we can't just automatically change that in a rule right now. It's got to stay over here in this box. We can make other changes to the rule to make it more stringent, whatever we need to do, but we have to kind of set that aside in case we fail a standard, then that gets enacted, if that makes sense.
The other thing, we did change our website, and has this group had the web page presentation? I don't know if you have, okay. But it actually is easier to get to once you know where it is. So on our website, you'll see, if you're on mobile, you'll see the kind of AQI thing right in the.
I found it in the phone, but for some reason, when I was in my computer, in the
Yeah.
website, I couldn't find it.
Huh. It's like there's 6 little blocks that kind of go right across the middle of the screen, and one of those is file a complaint. So kind of we can pull it up. Yeah. Yeah, because it's kind of front and center.
That's it. I want you to see it and then give feedback if it, and
I was
it's
trying
still,
to help someone.
yeah.
Like, do it here.
Just our homepage.
Kind of going back to the enforcement and I mean, was raising the concerns about illegal open burning, trash burning. That I always talk about, when I started in 2001, fresh out of college, and I had never really experienced people burning trash. Didn't even know that was a thing. I lived an isolated life. But once I started working here and I was an inspector and I had, outlying areas, I quickly realized like that, yeah, it's common. And, through complaint response, through just driving by and seeing it and engaging with the people and, taking enforcement action when I did see it, and kind of listening to it. There's a whole host of reasons, why that was occurring. Whether it was they're renting and there was no trash service that was included and they didn't themselves have the funding or didn't have the money to get trash service, to moved here from Tennessee and didn't know that, they were shocked to find out that in California, we had laws that said you can't burn trash in your backyard.
They don't burn our trash in Tennessee.
Well, this was 2000.
Maybe Kentucky,
This
okay?
was 2001.
The other thing we do is that we work fairly, compliance and outreach works fairly closely together. And if we see a little uptick in the number of complaints that we've gotten, or if we see that we're writing more tickets than usual, we've done direct mail campaigns to certain communities. What's funny is no one used to like direct mail. Direct mail is hot again. If you want to get to people get amazed if they get something that people are actually looking at their direct mail. It's not cheap, but we've done small little direct mail campaigns, or we'll put up a billboard in a neighborhood if we think there's an issue. If we've had really kind of chronic, maybe a small neighborhood, we've even some door-to-door flying to let people know kind of what's going on.
Yeah, the last thing, if there are specific areas. No,
Let us know.
I know we've done door-to-door in areas like Lanier and.
Okay.
And yes, I think one time through, and it is, a definite need. And, we're more than willing to, continue to provide those services. It's important to educate.
Yep, let's pull up the webpage. So it's the little red air quality complaints. And then submit air pollution complaint or call. There's all sorts of different ways you can do it. It's also on our, which I know you know this, but just in case folks don't know this, you can also file a complaint through our app. It's actually my favorite way to file a complaint. Call.
When
Yeah.
you tried to do it, did you do it with an address? Did you actually get the address of the property and let them know the address? Okay, good.
Yeah, but the reason I wanted to do it with the website instead of through the phone call is that they had a video of the burning.
Yeah, you can share that. Yeah.
There's other benefits too. I mean, as soon as our inspection report is completed, like through the online, it automatically sends the report to the reporting party.
Keith?
Okay, Jamie. This is complicated, but you said twice. You said you're asking people to stop doing things and to change. And then you said it again on your second half of your deal. You asked people to stop and change. And then you gave an example of the two ladies who had changed and they couldn't afford to pay their PG&E bill. Okay, so I am connected with a group called turn.org. It's a advocacy group in San Francisco, and they're going to be here with their team, their primary team on the 30th of this month. I'd like to introduce them to you, your team, and to Naeem. I'd like to introduce her and bring her into the meeting, see if we could schedule a meeting with turn.org. The problem is that you have, it's like a situation where you ask somebody to do something and change something in their life, and the thing that they change it to almost makes it worse. Because if these people are buying things that are going to increase their electric bill and PG&E is raising their utility rates every year, like right now, they've got a flyer going out that PG&E is looking to raise rates $500 a year by 2030 for people. So this advocacy group wants to come to Fresno, make a presentation to the meeting on the 7th in Fresno at the PG&E rate hike meeting. And I think we should, and the district should consider supporting that, because people are, you know, people that live on fixed incomes, $500 a year is a lot of money. Naeem, that's a lot of money. And we're here, a district, asking them to change their lifestyles, change their deal, and telling them to not only forgo burning wood, but to also pay more for their utility bill. And so I think that instead of us being a complementing partner to PG&E and allowing PG&E to take advantage of the Valley Air District's program and raising their rates, the Valley Air District should say, PG&E, just because we're asking people to help with the air, you should have a program for people who are changing over to these different cost-effective and different burning systems. And you should give an incentive, a financial incentive to the customer base that does that. So I'm thinking that maybe that might be a collaboration that we could put together with turn.org and see if we could get, maybe if it makes sense, if it doesn't. So I've asked Desiree to circulate the flyer so that you guys will get the flyer, and I'll send it to you. But I'd ask her to circulate the flyer to anybody in the EJAG and any people that are connected with ground roots organizations to encourage them to bring their people to this meeting, this PG&E meeting on the 7th for the rate hike. And this Turn company's got a lot of go power, so they could really help, you know, with the district. And I think it's complementary to what we're trying to accomplish, and to ask people to change their lifestyles and to ask people to go on, you know, the district subsidy, which could ultimately run out. That maybe this kind of a relationship with a group like this might be something that could make sense. That's what I want to say.
No, thanks, Keith, for sharing that, and we'll definitely take a look at it. I want to share like just an example. So I grew up, you know, in the South Fresno area, and in a house with very poor insulation. You know, had open hearth fireplaces. And I was like, you know, my sister and I were like Charlie in the Chocolate Factory. We'd be sitting on the couch with like 5 blankets on us during the winter to stay warm because we couldn't keep. And you know, later on, you know, my mom was able to use the district program, and so she put in an insert. One of the things and one of the benefits of that insert is it stopped the natural draft that was happening in the house, which doesn't cost anything to do that, thankfully. You know, when she, like the few times she did use the heat, that heat would just go out that chimney stack. And so it was just constant, you know, you basically lose it. So at that point, it was just like, okay, well, we won't turn on the heater. And so we just use blankets and sweaters and beanies and other things in order to stay warm. So I think that is another benefit. Yeah, it's, you know, some of them use, you know, gas or, you know, maybe they go with an electric heat pump, but either way, a lot of those cases, they block off that chimney. So that way it prevents the warm air from leaving the house and sucking in the cold air, which is, you know, that's what fireplaces do in most homes. So when people are burning in their fireplace, they're not really heating their home. They're just heating an area around the fireplace, but in actuality, it's pulling in cold air from like the outside into the rest of the house. And so, you know, there's additional benefits and cost savings through that. So like my mom still doesn't use her, you know, heater that much in the house, but even in the winter, it's warmer because you know, she stopped that natural draft from happening.
Thank God we don't live in caves.
Then yeah, definitely. If you got like, there's a nice bear in there, maybe you can cuddle up and stay warm.
We also make sure that folks are aware that God bless PG&E. That's all I can say is I pay more and more every month. That's you all do. But we make sure that people are aware of the handful of programs that the utilities do have for low income folks, just in case they aren't aware, because there are a handful of ways that folks can enroll in those programs and get their rates lowered.
Thanks. So just one thing I wanted to, I don't know if anybody's ever thought of this, but we've been using our whole house fan when it's still warm in the daytime, getting cold at night. We actually run it in the day to bring the warm air in and warm air in the attic. And then we shut it off when it starts to cool down. We've actually done the reverse of when we use it to cool in the summertime. And it actually works both ways. The other thing I wanted to say was I get antsy when we start talking about expanding the no burn period, only because it's kind of like pretty soon we're just going to say never again to any. And then I started thinking, well, how about if you like pick 3 days a year when everybody could burn? Okay, so we didn't have to do Halloween, but maybe Thanksgiving and Christmas and New Year's. And those would be your 3 times a year.
No.
Hey, come on, Christmas time, fire in the fireplace.
It's always the check their quality.
Hey,
So-
I'm on the record, I don't care.
And I have been called the Grinch who spoiled the Christmas. So just know.
So
Can we get that right? Can we get that deal?
no, definitely not.
I'll go with the expansion and just give us 3 days.
You know, as like once I mentioned before, I was a former inspector, and so you know, one of the gratifying aspects of that job is you know, when people are reporting things, it's because they're experiencing things. And I can't tell you the number of times I had a mother calling me because their child was having another asthma attack as a result of the neighbor burning their fireplace. And so at the end of the day, it is about health protection. And it would be nice. I get it. You know, Christmas Day, you have your family, ambiance. I understand that. But if the air quality is poor that day, you know, one person's right to burn their fireplace shouldn't mean that the neighbor has to go take their child to the emergency room and ruin their Christmas.
We hear those
So-
stories every year.
So that's kind of the balance of it. And that's why we have that rule in place and
Yeah, but it's still, still in it.
CAL FIRE. How do you guys cooperate with CAL FIRE? I called them the other night to complain about a guy burning garbage and it was just filling the whole neighborhood. And CAL FIRE,
Call us.
It was them.
CAL FIRE's not going to do it, anything.
so no, CAL FIRE is an excellent partner in that they will notify us in most instances. I won't say all instances, depending on the engineer that's working that day may not be as familiar, they may be new, they may not. But for the most part, if there are instances, you know, they will notify us to that and then. Yeah, they do. And yeah,
Uh-huh.
and
They have inspectors.
Yeah.
Someone
So-
will get woken up, but it will not be me.
And I mean,
Let's change that.
a lot of the times, you know, we'll investigate it. And if we determine that there was illegal burning that happened, then we'll take enforcement action. So as Jamie mentioned, we see very low repeat offenders, which, you know, speaks to the fact that people just need to be educated on the fact that you
Get it.
can't do it. And
They just bought a new house in an older neighborhood. They don't know. They grew up in a house that didn't have a fireplace. They really, I'm amazed. You would think that we are all fighting tooth and nail against each other, but I am amazed how much when you chat with folks and really kind of walk them through what's going on, they're like, okay, I get it. No, I can do that. Yes, no, I understand.
this guy's a county employee.
Doesn't matter. We had a judge that we've given tickets to over here on Christmas Tree Lane that was not happy with us.
Get arrested in his though.
Okay, so any questions or comments in Modesto?
Okay, thank you for acknowledging us. And so, I'm glad we got invited to the party.
I'm doing my
so-
best up here, SB. I'm doing my best.
But that was obviously, you know, in terms of the great presentation, what have you. And so going back to like my original question about like the correlation and comparison, I was just like thinking, Jamie, like in terms of like the charts, like you have the different years, but then seeing how we've increased the incentive program, especially this one, and how that correlates. I don't know if we've had that before. But if we hadn't, that would be something that would be helpful as far as like the education process, because then people would understand, and then also would help to increase funding in the incentive side. That's why I was thinking of that. So since we have both the data, obviously it's just, overlaying the information. That's what I was talking about earlier. And then the thing that I was gonna ask about on the complaints when they're logged, that 270 public complaints, those obviously are all of them, right? Like phone calls through via the app and what have you. And so when those complaints are logged, I know that sometimes you could do it where you're anonymous, but for the ones that aren't, the data for that where could we obtain like additional data, for what type of complaints and then the areas, where are they coming from? That's something I would be very interested in, because we want to make sure that like folks are using the complaint app, especially like we're talking about homes and where you can go and do the fining and everything else that we talked about, right? But one of the things that Reina and I were discussing was like, what about like the homeless encampments, right? We talked about this before, because obviously in terms of finding them, you're not gonna be able to find them. And there is no landowner per se, but like in Stockton and then probably some parts of Fresno, like in the urban areas, especially, and the encampments, that's like a daily thing, right? In the evening, that's going to happen. And sometimes in the daytime, even, I've gone for, like runs right there by the University of Pacific, and I literally like stop in my tracks and go back the other way because they're burning something. Obviously they're not, going to Save Mart like those ladies, they're burning something that smells, very, very, very strong, and it's not wood. So, so then that being said, like in terms of those complaints, that's what I'm trying to see is like, as far as that tracking mechanism, and then how do we, do that with the homeless encampment component? Because that obviously that's going to be every night, especially in the winter time. And there's like a lot of different homeless encampments that are happening throughout the valley. So that's why I was looking to see how is that mapping, because you talked about the camera. And so I don't know, like, where is the camera? Is it like you're saying, is it through a device that's being flown? Is it through drones? Because there's a lot of drone things that are happening with the whole thing with the fireworks and other kinds of things with drones. So I know there's like a bunch of questions. I was trying to layer them and get them all in here really quick because of our time component. So, and then another thing you mentioned was the smoke, when you're talking about smoke and smoking. I think one time there was a statistic that I think you might have used that said, the amount of time of the inhalation of that indoor smoke was equivalent to smoking so many cigarettes. I remember there was some kind of statistic. So then that might be helpful in terms of the outreach piece of it. And then going along with the homeless component, I know at one point over in Stockton, North Stockton, where my mom's at, there were squatters in that neighborhood, and they had the fire going like nonstop. So I'm assuming that when there's enforcement in that component, then that's going to be going to the homeowner, right? Because they're not taking care of the property. So those were my questions. Sorry, there were so many.
Through the chair, I'll try to respond to as many as I can. So kind of working my way from maybe the last questions to the earlier ones. In regards to homeless burning, that is definitely a challenge. There's no easy solution to that. We experienced that, just recently here, by the office, there were several large fires resulted from people squatting along the freeway, and the fire department had to come out and extinguish that. When we get notified about those issues, we talk with the code enforcement and local law enforcement in regards to that. Yes, it's a violation of our rules and regulations. The issue there, though, is that there's no. We could cite them, but in reality, it wouldn't go anywhere. Our our ability to, resolve that wouldn't, we know from the get-go wouldn't be successful. We rely on people that live in homes and, in order to take some like civil procedures against the individuals and understanding that those people, that's not an option. And so we've been successful though, in working with code enforcement and local law enforcement and the fire agencies in responding to individual incidences. And so the complaint process is, like if people call us, then we, work together with those other agencies. But, a lot of times it's just as effective to reach out to them directly in regards to it. Oftentimes it's things that they know of and they're regularly, working on those issues in those areas. But as everybody knows, it's transient. So, it more often than not, it moves, and it's an issue that is happening across the state. It's much larger than just the burning. The homelessness situation is, it's very dire, and I know there's a lot of time and effort and thought put into how to address that issue, and but yeah, so that's to that first point. So yeah, either notify the, code enforcement or local law enforcement in regards to those burns. In regards to, opportunities for, thinking about better ways to communicate the benefits of the incentive programs, that's something that we can definitely consider and look at, some options as to, maybe how we can incorporate, the number of devices that have been changed out, over the years, and how that may play or has played a part in reducing pollution. And trying to think if there was another question that I missed. Oh, in regards to the camera. So the one that we use for fireplace enforcement is, we send out teams of inspectors to go out, and so it's handheld. It's not a drone. It's a handheld camera by inspectors in vehicles that are driving in the street or on the street, not in it.
Terms of the other part, in terms of the mapping, to get a deeper dive as to where the complaints are coming from. And I think I'm trying to look at the correlation of, then like we're talking about the homeless encampment. So then, and the homes themselves. So just trying to see within the valley, where the complaints are coming from. And so, that was a deeper dive on that one in terms of that data.
So like in terms of like doing outreach, so like providing information on maybe certain areas where we're seeing higher levels of violations, and so that, or were you looking at, in regards to what we do as an agency in addressing kind of like those higher number spots?
Right. Yeah, like you have the 270 complaints. So were the majority like in the south, or where were they coming from? Just kind of like, if I'm sure you have it like mapped out. If we could get that information, that would be great. And then if it's the folks going out, and then when they do the camera component, is that when they're issuing the tickets? I guess because I don't know anyone that's gotten a ticket. That's why I don't know.
Yeah, it's we don't. So one of our priorities is to get to as much area as we can. And so if we were to stop every time we found a violation, that would drastically reduce our effectiveness. So what we do is we have staff in the office, as people find the violations, they turn it over to that staff to prepare the notices of violation. Those notices of violation get sent out that day. So most often people will receive it the following day in the mail.
Okay. And the reason I was asking about the drone, because you know how you guys had the pilot program for the fireworks, and then in Stanislaus County, they had that whole pilot, and they had the flyover, and I think it was with like, I don't know if it was a drone or something similar, and they were catching the illegal fireworks. So I don't know if that can be just integrated with this, and in terms of going to like Jamie's point on cost, then that would, you know, kind of help curtail that and partnering with folks like that that do have a program that's active and that can capture, you know, the photos and location.
Yeah, so on the drone technology right now, the majority of it is based on infrared. And like those devices for residential wood burning wouldn't be effective. And there's been some legal challenges because of the heat that is detected. A lot of it emanates from inside the house. And so that's been deemed a privacy violation. And so we can't use that. We have to see you know, visible emissions leaving the house itself. And so that's kind of, you know, why we've focused on the technology that we have.
Okay, thank you. I appreciate it.
Okay, any questions or comments in Bakersfield? Okay, seeing none, we will move on to the 617 and community engagement update. Thank you both for your presentations. We appreciate it.
Maybe next Halloween.
The 617 and community engagement update. This satisfies goal and objective number 10, work with the district to enhance the effectiveness and the district's AB 617 program. Hi, Stephanie.
Hello. Hi, Chair, members of the EJAG. My name is Stephanie Ng, Director of Community Strategies and Resources, here to provide you an update on AB 617 implementation and our general valley-wide community engagement. Just as a reminder to you all, we are undergoing the implementation of AB 617 through 4 CARB selected communities. Those communities are South Central Fresno, Shafter, Stockton, and Arbin-Lamont. Across all 4 of those communities, the community steering committees that we work with, which are comprised of residents, community-based organizations, businesses, government agencies, they've all kind of adapted their own clean air strategies. You can see at the bottom, each community is different, but they've all selected a variety of clean air measures that are estimated to reduce a whole host of pollution in their respective local communities. A few updates that I wanted to provide to you all is at the end of September, we did have a really fun event and we called it Pathways to Cleaner Air. It was a town hall in the community and we held it at a church and we did it in partnership with the mayor of Arbin. Her name is Olivia Calderon, and it was a really, really great event. We had over 120 residents in that community attend. And it was really the core of the event was for community members, residents really to learn about how they could participate in our various clean air programs through us as a district, but then also we brought on a lot of other local agencies as well to talk about the programs that they run in the Kern County area. This is kind of a whole variety of the agencies that joined us. We had groups like Valley Can or Valley Clean Air Now that I know a lot of you are familiar with. We had the Kern County Public Health Department, the City of Arbin. I won't read the whole list, but we had a lot of different groups joining us for the event. Some of the highlights is we did have a lot of different booths and tables for the various programs that we have. Our vehicle replacement program, that's the line that you actually see there. In addition to the long one there is actually for the mower event that we are hosting that I'll talk a little bit more about. Which you can see right in the corner there, that's Arbin High School. In November, we'll be at Arbin High School for another mower event. We also did, the Arbin-Lamont community did opt to add in an air purifier program to their SERP, which we worked really hard to get it open. We essentially launched it at this town hall event, which was really awesome. It was a fun event to get to basically kick off the program. We had over 80 signups just that day alone, and we're continuing to get more applications kind of every day as we do more outreach. Another exciting event that I wanted to share, this event is a long, long time in the making in our Shafter community in partnership with Kern County. District has funded a $2.1 million paving project for new curb, gutter, and sidewalk in the La Colonia community. This project is really, it's been a hugely supported project for kind of a whole variety of reasons, for its ability to be able to reduce emissions from dust in the community, to of course support safe and different alternative modes of transportation and just reducing those VMTs. It was a really fun celebration. We were able to have our executive director Samir, and then also one of our board members, Supervisor Couch, out there. We had a whole group of community members there that had their own table, and we're talking about kind of the work that they're doing in the La Colonia area. So it was just a fun opportunity to get to celebrate the work that's being done in the community. I mentioned it earlier, but we have these really awesome, they've kind of, evolved. I know that you all might remember because they kind of started off as these single small lawnmower events that we were doing. It was a pretty big undertaking for our district team, but we kind of went from these events that our district staff would put on. We would, try and do about 100 units. They've really morphed and evolved, especially due to a partnership we have with Valley Can. We're doing anywhere from the realm of 300 to 500 mowers in one event now. We've also been able to combine them with our tune-in, tune-up vehicle repair program, and then also with signups for our free purifier program or our clean air room program. So we're continuing to do these kind of huge hybrid events that can, combine a lot of our district programs. The next one will be in Arvin, Lamont on Saturday, November 8th. And actually just today we closed the portal just due to it being the event being at capacity, which is really exciting. This number continues to grow, but today we've done over 2,000 mowers. Those are mowers that have been exchanged, and then also tested over 1,000 vehicles through the tune-in, tune-up program. And then I'll just kind of move us over to actually kind of some of the work that we're continuing to do actually outside of our 617 communities. Just a couple of weeks ago, our team was out in Madera. We were at the Madera Library, and we were there to share kind of information, really community-specific information on our enforcement and compliance efforts. We've been coordinating with a local CPO out there that kind of requested for us to come out and share some of this. Naming to your point, one of the most important topics that really big topics. We are on our way to Terravella, but we did one of actually a really important conversation we had out there was about open burning. I think there's a lot of information that is really good to share with community members. And this was one of those, I think, very resonating times that it just was like, it was so important, I think, for us to be there in the community to talk about this, for folks to ask questions in a really open way and learn about our district programs. So we had a really great presentation. We had some really great staff that were able to give the presentation in Spanish because the group was pretty much monolingual Spanish speakers. And so we definitely enjoyed having that opportunity. This was organized by a community air grant through CARB. And so the district is planning on attending other CAG recipients meetings, including, I'm hoping, Terravella, and whenever, you all have a meeting that makes sense for us to come. And I've showed this meeting before, but it's essentially that same ask. We want to continue to partner with different, communities across the valley. So please reach out if you'd like our team to support your work. And we have also, I think, a couple other community. I'm hoping Terravella is one of them. We also would like to go also to Delano and then Stanislaus County in the next few weeks. So let us know again if there's any need in communities that you're working with to kind of connect on clean air work. And that is my presentation. I'm happy to take any questions.
Thank you, Stephanie. We'll start with any questions or comments in Bakersfield. Okay, seeing none, we'll go to Modesto.
Okay, I just have, okay, so just like an invitation prior to us setting this up. So what we're gonna have in Stockton is through the city of Stockton, the mayor's office, we're putting together a Stockton Energy Alliance. So basically, like there was some talk earlier about the increase in PG&E rates. And then for us, that whole question is coming in because we have Ava Energy, who's part of the city of Stockton now, and people are getting confused with, instead of saving money, it's an increase, but it's because of PG&E and not because of Ava Energy. So nonetheless, we're going to have a community town hall. And so it would be a natural partnership with the Air District to then talk about all the different incentive programs, especially, what we've been talking about here with the replacement in terms of the wood burning stoves and everything else, because, a lot of folks aren't aware. So there'll be a component. So it's just like, I want to make sure that we'll put that onto, like our calendar and then let you know as soon as possible. But that's something that we're working on because there will be a community town hall, obviously, to let people know about the other incentive programs. And then and then just the cost of the energy and like everyone talked about, as far as the staff, and then how this kind of helps to curtail it depending on the usage and what have you. So I think it's a perfect opportunity to have you all participate and then be able to educate the community. And then we'll have obviously people in the various languages that'll be there, especially Spanish speaking. So that'll be up and coming. So I just wanted to comment because it'll be something similar to what you had there, but integrating the energy folks as well, so they can answer some hard questions to the community members. Thanks.
Thanks, Setsby, for sharing that. If you can share the information with me, we can certainly check in with staff to see who's available.
Okay, any questions or comments here in Fresno? Seeing none, thank you very much, Stephanie. Okay, we will move on to district comments.
Thank you, Chair. Ryan Hash, Deputy Air Pollution Control Officer. I always forget to introduce myself, so I'll do it at the end of the meeting today. I wanted to talk real briefly in regards to the governing board study session that was held last week. Definitely want to thank Raina for being there and providing some really great comments to several of the items. It was a really great meeting overall. The purpose of the study sessions is to tee up some of the really impactful items that are affecting the valley, and using those as a means to get insight and guidance from our governing board as to how we should be thinking about and strategizing moving forward on a lot of topics. And so just kind of real briefly, we had a really great conversation about wildfire prevention and response strategies. We had Eastern Madera County Fire Council there. If people aren't familiar, the fire state councils support communities. They're local organizations that local members put together, and then they work under a larger umbrella. But they support wildfire preparedness and resilience within communities. We got a great update, as you've heard, some of them he brought here, but CAL FIRE and the United States Forest Service both came to that meeting and provided updates on the progress that they've made, and also what their future plans are. We had a great conversation about the Clean Air Act implementation and the challenges, as we were talking about with some of the actions taken by the federal government and kind of where that's kind of leaving us. We were very fortunate to have Lauren Sanchez, who is now the chair of the California Air Resources Board, as kind of like her first public meeting. She was able to attend and kind of give us her insight into how she views her role and how she's definitely committed to working with us here in the Valley and addressing our needs. We also had Dr. Stephen Cliff, who's the executive officer from the California Resources Board, giving us updates from CARB on Valley-related topics. We had a really great panel on the emerging alternative fueling initiatives and opportunities for the Valley. We had ARCHES, which is the Alliance for Renewable Clean Hydrogen Energy Systems there, talking about their goals for the Valley in terms of getting more hydrogen fueling available. We also had Watt EV, who focuses on trucking, transitioning people into electric trucks. And some of the projects that they have in the Valley, they're trying to build out a network to make it possible to deliver goods from LA to the Bay. We also had the California Renewable Transportation Alliance talking about opportunities for the future. We discussed the challenges and opportunities to address ag land transitions and air quality, as everybody is familiar with the Sustainable Groundwater Management Act and the impacts that is having now and it will in the future, in terms of we're going to see more crops being pulled as a result of that, which in turn leads to more biomass. Since burning isn't an option, needing to find alternative solutions. We had a great panel of speakers, and some talked about the developing industries that are looking at taking that material and turning it into viable products that that you can put into the consumer marketplace. And so there's things out there that are looking to address this, but it's going to be huge. And so we need to, be having these conversations now. The time for this is now. We had a great conversation about our healthy air living schools and youth outreach. And that's one of the most important things is like Jamie talked about educating the public, educating our youth. As my kids are getting older, it's interesting because, they are hearing more about air pollution from their counterparts. And I think that starts in like these earlier like programs like the Healthy Air Living and talking about their awareness about things like ROAR and RAN and all these other things. We also talked about public communication on Valley air quality progress and continuing efforts. And this is an important topic in regards to the messaging. I'm sure many of you are familiar. If you go and look at a house right now, on like you're looking to purchase a house, there are new like metrics that are being used to relay like air quality information, wildfire threat to homes, and all these other factors that people, if they're looking at a house, that they may want to take into consideration. And so some of the feedback that we're getting from economic development organizations across the valley is that sometimes challenging. You're trying to draw in doctors and these other people, and so I mean, if all the messaging is doom and gloom and there's no progress being made, that may dissuade some of those people from moving here. And so it's like, okay, how do we share accurate information to people in regards to this? How do we work with organizations to make sure that they're relaying the information that's happening? And so through that I have some things here we can pass out, or we already passed out, so you have them. And so it's by county and it relays the information in regards to the progress that's being made. When I say progress being made, it's not like mission accomplished, we're there. Obviously, there's still a lot of challenges, but it's up-to-date information about how the trends and what air quality is looking like versus where it did. And so that was a really great conversation that we had with the board in regards to that. And so with that, those were the comments that I had, and I'm happy to take anybody's questions if they have any.
Ryan, did the folks in Modesto and Bakersfield get a copy?
No, we will be emailing them that after the meeting.
Okay.
You do have that.
Yes, and we can email it out. Let me rephrase that. We will email it out to everybody.
Thank you. I'm gonna start with Modesto. Any questions, comments in Modesto? Okay, seeing none. Bakersfield? Seeing none, we'll come back here into the room. Naomi, did you have something? Okay, it's your turn.
I have a question. Are these study sessions open? I didn't know we could attend, so I was surprised to hear that Reina was there, but maybe she was invited and not us.
Everybody on the EJAG was sent an email.
I didn't get it.
Okay. Well, we can definitely check the email, but we sent out an email to all of the standing bodies of the district. It was open to the public.
Okay, so that's one thing. I'm wondering, what is the role of the air district? I know you guys submit comments, especially when you're talking about, land transition. Land transition is not only, they're transforming this ag field into something else. A lot of these are already fallow lands in West Fresno County in particular. But what is happening there is also the development of these massive projects that during the construction period are going to be a major nuisance for the community. Not only because just one single project is bringing over 130 diesel trucks daily additional to whatever was already circulating around the community. So Cantua Creek, 5 Points, El Porvenir, and that area, okay? So that is what, the disturbance of the soil. So what was the role, or what could be the role of the air district of making sure that these companies are gonna do the best that they can to mitigate that? We submitted public comment letters, and we were asking for rerouting of the you know, where the trucks are gonna be going so that they could be farther away from the homes. We asked for other measures that they could take, but you know, we were just, you know, small groups. What did the air district did or is going to do to address these new massive projects? That's just one. There's other more that are gonna be even bigger that are coming to the valley. That was just 9,100 acres, but the other ones that are being proposed are gonna be over 120,000 acres.
To my knowledge, we did provide comment on the project. And, you know, similar to other projects that have air quality impacts or the potential to impact air quality. You know, we receive notices on that. We review the projects and we provide relevant comments to them.
Excellent. Excellent. I just watched a documentary the other night on how they track and trace the data centers, where they're going in, the big solar projects, where they're going in, and they trace them through the generators, standby generators. So my concern is, Naomi just brought up it's a great concern. If these data centers go down and they have to rely on these gen sets, you know, is the district involved in making sure that these gen sets are set up to gas, to diesel, to NP, LPG? What, do you guys have any kind of contingency plans for that?
So in terms of data centers, if they are not tied into utility and they wanted to put in some type of fuel burning device in order to run those, that would have to go through our permitting process.
Required.
Yeah.
It's mandatory that they have backup power. They cannot build the facility without backup power. That's why they're able to trace and track where the data centers are going, because Meta, Facebook, Google, those are all the ones that are building it through subsidiary companies that are shell corporations. They're the ones doing the construction and the building, and the development's all done through investors. So I'm curious as to whether or not, do you guys have a mandate on whether or not those backup generators run or burn a certain type of fuel and have?
Yes, everything, if there's a
Backup generator.
Oh, great.
Wow.
AI is going to answer
Can
it
you
for me.
believe that?
Thank you so much, AI.
Thank you, Trump.
Yes, everything has to go through our permitting process. If they want to consider the equipment that they would be considering, we don't mandate a specific type. They can propose what they want. It would go through a rigorous review, and best available control technology would be applied in that case. And so they would have to meet whatever those requirements for that technology.
The equipment too, that Naomi just made mention of, is the breaking of the soil on 9,000 acres. That's a lot of dust in the air. That's a lot of particulate. And I'm just curious as to if there's any kind of watering down mandate specialty. Is the air district involved in any of that?
Yes. So, for those projects, that's considered a earth moving project. And so it is subject to the requirements. We have a rule 8021. It's for earth moving activities, and it requires them the submittal of a dust control plan. And there are a whole host of measures that are required to put one of those together. It includes requirements to stabilize surface, limit visible dust emissions. We perform inspections of those to confirm that they're complying with those requirements. There's record keeping requirements. So yeah, there are definitely things in place that require them to limit their emissions.
And the carry in, carry out the large diesel trucks to carry in and carry out on designated roadways that aren't going to create dust for the local communities?
That's, in terms of the ingress egresses, that's all part of the dust control plan that they have to include.
So can we request a copy of the dust control plan that these projects are gonna submit, or have they submitted it, or how are you gonna, and then you go and do the inspections, or how you make sure? Because I mean, these are far away from the city of Fresno.
We have inspectors all throughout the valley because we have sources all throughout the valley. And so, we do our best to make sure that we maximize our effectiveness in the field. And so, when we're performing a dust control plan on the far west side, we'll make sure that we're going to gas stations, ag engines, other types of equipment that have permits with us at the same time to make sure that, we're not just going out there to do an hour or 2 hour inspection, but that, they have a full plate of inspections to be done that day. In regards to the dust control plan, I don't know if they've submitted one. The requirement is 30 days before earth moving activities take place, they have to submit a dust control plan. So,
I received a letter that construction is starting next week.
so then their chances are that it's already in place and that we have it, and I will confirm that.
Can the
This is a solar project that Naomi's talking about.
Can the public request that document?
Yes, the documents are subject to the Public Records Act.
Awesome. Go ahead, Lynn.
One question, Ryan, and Naimeen and Keith, their inspectors are, I can attest, because of the natural gas engines that our farmers have, because there is no power, and we have to have those inspected annually. And the boys and girls of the Air District, the men and women of the Air District inspectors, from the Kern office to the Modesto office, they are out there. So I can attest to that. I appreciate your enthusiasm about the destruction of good farmland because of Sigma. And Sigma has destroyed this and will cause tremendous. And that's what the district is working with agriculture right now, and USDA, NRCS. How do we deal with these farmlands that are going to go dormant because of what's happened? These solar investor companies are taking a disadvantage of what's happened to agriculture. And yes, I'm not happy at all with solar at all. They're destroying the farmlands and whatever. But my question to Ryan, and maybe for you folks, the Air Resources Board has set up what we call power generated stations to service electric vehicles and the electric infrastructure, because it isn't enough power at their service recharge stations. So they have put in natural gas or diesel burning generators, the cleanest diesel engine we have, to provide enough electric charging station for vehicles in the San Joaquin Valley and other spots. One is in Lodi, and I believe there's one south. I don't know if the Air District has, if the State of California Resources Board is doing this. In other words, they tell you to go all electric, but yet they're using diesel generators to provide the infrastructure power because they don't have enough water, enough whatever to generate power. My question, Ryan, and the district, does the state have to submit a plan to you if they're going to put engines, or are they exempt? Because they're a state agency, they would probably be exempt, huh?
No.
No?
There's no one exempt from the requirements. If you have a stationary engine,
correct,
and it's being used in that manner, it would require a permit with us. We have lots of permits with the state. Now, there are some times where, if the governor were to take an executive order, I mean, there are ways in emergency circumstances to
bypass
that would exempt certain things, if that was the case. But outside of that, yeah, it would require a permit. I think the only other exception would be, I don't think it would apply in this case, but there are also portable equipment registrations that people can get, in addition to stationary permits, but that's for, different types of operations.
But I agree. I think it is a very sad situation, what's happening. The district is doing one heck of a job cleaning up the air from 1990 to now. Incredible when you look at the red to the green, that chart. And then we have these companies, these investment companies coming in and taking advantage of farmland because there's no water and suddenly throwing up solar, but the farmer has to have some type of income because that may be all. That's his only or her only choice. If not, because they don't have Social Security, they don't have a lot of those things. So I just have a real great disappointment for solar, the way that it is being taken advantage when we have thousands of miles of roof of warehouses that we can put solar on, rather than taking good farmland just because the water situation, we can send water to Los Angeles, but we can't send water to the west side, to Mendota, to Avenal, to Shafter or anything. Okay, so again, but I do want to say your enforcement is very up to par. I have to give it an A because you are out there. And even on when our bad farmer who does burn when he's not supposed to, you've identified him and you've taken care of it. And we support that in agriculture because we do have a rule and we have to honor that. If we're doing a fireplace rule, then the farmers should also have that same, and they do. So I do want to thank your district. Oh, you do have a good enforcement activity going on. Thank you.
Chair, through the chair, if I might add to that, is that he hasn't even touched on the very worst part of what's going to happen with solar when the life of the panels run out, and taking those and dismantling those solar systems. You're going to be blown away with where are they going to go? Who's going to take it? How are they going to get rid of it? It's insane. I just had 3 meetings with major commercial solar projects looking for us to invest in their solar, just like Manuel's talking about, wanting to buy west side land that's in area 3, namely in Westlands, Kings County, and the solar park. And we've got Lemoore Naval Air Station that wants to drop a data center in and 9,000 acres of solar to run the data center off grid. And all this stuff seems to be just kosher with everybody, while these poor growers that are sitting there on this dirt that they've had in their legacy family farming for years and years, 4th generation, losing this land at below market value prices because of the pressure on Sigma and the water. I agree with Manuel 100%.
Okay. Thank you for those comments and those questions. We'll move on to number 11, potential future EJAG meeting agenda items. Let me go around the, are there any items or suggestions from Modesto? Seeing none at this point, how about Bakersfield? And seeing none at this point, okay, Keith.
Okay, this is going to be a controversial agenda item request. I request that we have an agenda item that exploits the conflicting directives of HSR, high-speed rail, with the directives of the Valley Air District and the EPA on clean air. And I think that those are competing objectives. I think the funds are competing for each other. And I think we could get so much more out of the dollar spent cleaning our air versus the dollar spent putting in a train that's going to go from Bakersfield to Modesto. Merced at 75 miles an hour.
The only thing on that topic, I guess, I mean, we can add it to the list. I guess the thing would be, how does how does it fit in with the objectives of EJAG? And like, what does that conversation entail?
Right.
Yeah, I just threw it out there.
Finding more money for the district.
Yeah.
My thing is that, I mean, HSR is another agency and entity altogether, and we have no jurisdiction over them. I mean,
Yeah, but we can compete for the same dollar.
you're right. We are competing
Yeah,
for the
why
same
can't we
dollars.
conflict? You know, it's conflicting. Why don't we compete for them and get exploited? You know, get grow teeth.
Okay, any other agenda item?
Fireplaces at Christmas.
We are not doing that. We're not doing fireplaces at Christmas. I will be
You're
Miss,
gonna get the natural. features.
yes,
That-
I can get, I'll be Santa Claus for that. But I will be Ms. Scrooge for that
Those things
one.
we hang in the room that smells like firewood, right? Like
Okay.
burning wood.
Yes.
I'll get you one.
I'll get you a cedar
So you
tree.
can-
There you go.
You can feel comfortable.
There was
I'm gonna
a
hold you to that.
suggestion made by Manuel earlier to talk about CARB's plans for mobile emission reductions and, they have their meeting today as Manuel mentioned. And so that's why we didn't look to have that topic today, but that may be one, that we could look to work with CARB to bring
I
to
think
EJAG.
that's a good one. Yeah.
I have one. Could we have an update whenever it's appropriate? Maybe the next meeting, I don't know, but on whatever's going on federally, how it's affecting dollars that may or may not come to California and how that might affect us down the road. Because I mean, that's kind of a liquid item right now. So I'd like to know kind of on an ongoing basis, what's going on with money in, money out, especially from the feds.
Okay.
You're rejecting my proposal.
No.
It's on, I wrote it down right here.
You wrote it down. Reject proposal.
That is not what it says.
You don't understand. At
No.
lunch Monday, they'll be laughing over this one. So
No, I think that there is some way to have some sort of update on it. It's just finding where it makes sense and where it doesn't make sense. Okay, this is the second opportunity for public comments.
Are there any public comments in Bakersfield?
No public comment in Bakersfield.
Any public comments in Modesto?
No public comments in Modesto.
None in Fresno and none online.
Okay, and then number 13, EJAG member comments. Modesto first.
I've addressed,
Modesto first.
oh, sorry.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, because I know we're over time here. I just wanted to thank everybody. And we weren't trying to be rude or anything, but Reina and myself had just come from the California Forward Economic Summit that took place over the last couple of days in Stockton. So that was in terms of all day and then also into the evening. But that being said, in terms of the outreach, when the campaign starts on the no burn, in terms of it's going out to the different cities, just anything that we can do to help to outreach for that would be great. So that we can get that out to our community members. And then in terms of the different topics, I'm not trying to be rude or anything, but with rail and water and solar and how it integrates with the air district is one thing. But another thing is because like I said, in terms of our time here, because we're going on to 8 o'clock. So as them being real agenda items, I think that, if we can kind of look to what we're doing. And so, again, just in terms of trying to stay on track, just because of the time and, people have to drive quite a ways to get back to their homes after being at, such conferences, everybody working, even if you didn't have a conference. And so just speaking for myself and, we were making comments as far as how far people have to drive, an hour, 2 hours or more to get home. So that's just my comment and my opinion. Thank you.
Thank you, SB. I'm going to go to Bakersfield.
Okay.
first. Do you have anything in Bakersfield? I can't see the screen. Is there anybody in Bakersfield?
Yeah, there's one
Okay.
left.
Okay. I'm seeing none. Okay, Keith.
Okay, so SB, that's too bad, but you're an adult. If you can't schedule,
Hey,
if your schedule
okay,
interferes with your
Stop,
work,
stop,
Jag,
stop. Keith,
then what
No.
what can anybody
Stop.
say?
I will not have that, Keith. That is uncalled for.
No, that's ridiculous.
That is uncalled for.
That's ridiculous.
That is uncalled for.
No,
I won't, I won't. have
you're
to say-
uncalled for. What are you
I will
doing?
not
You're out
have
of
you
order.
speaking to other
You are out of
members.
order.
You,
Yelling like that at a
No.
member.
no.
You are out of
don't
order,
get to
Chair.
talk to another member.
You are out of order, Chair. I'm addressing her concern
You do
and
not
her
get to talk.
comment. I have a
You are
right to
attacking
address her comment.
You are attacking her.
No, I am not attacking her. I'm addressing her comment. She made a comment about what we were asking to
This-
put on the agenda, and she literally told us that it's wasting the EJAG's
No,
time.
She did not say
That's the
that.
comment she made.
That is
That's
not
what
what
her
she said.
input was.
Through the chair,
what she said.
that's not the way I interpreted the comment. I
That's not what
interpreted
she
the
said.
comment that ideally, the meeting is scheduled from 5:30 to 7:30, finding ways to get done by 7:30.
That was the
That's what I
comment.
heard.
That
so-
was the comment.
To the extent that we can, and we'll work together to do a better job of this, making sure that we get people out on the times that are set.
I apologize, Keith. I apologize.
Yeah, I don't know why you did that.
Where I'm coming from is that I believe that everyone has an opinion.
Right.
Everyone is entitled to express that opinion,
Yeah.
and everyone is entitled to ask for a timely meeting. At this point in time, our next meeting is scheduled for January 22nd at 5:30. And with that, I hope everyone has happy holidays. No burning on Christmas unless it's a burn day. And we'll adjourn this meeting. Thank you all for being here and sticking with us.
Thank you very much, everyone.
Great job.